You're with the Birth Whisperer, sharing global wisdom for confident childbirth. I'm Anna Wild, and today I have the absolute pleasure of talking with Hera Livingston. Hera lives in Golden Bay, New Zealand, with her partner and beautiful twin children, a boy and a girl. Today she's going to share the amazing story of her twin birth. I worked with Hera in one-on-one sessions when she was pregnant with her twins and working through some of the emotions that came up when she anticipated giving birth to her babies. A few weeks after the birth of her babies, Hera wrote her birth story and sent it to me by email, and for a long time I couldn't read it without crying tears, literally tears of joy, because the story was so moving and changed my perception of childbirth and how it should be in so many ways. And it made me realize that more than anything, the most important thing about giving birth is feeling empowered and in control of your own birth experience, no matter what path your birth takes, whether it be natural or surgical. So enjoy this fantastic story. Welcome, Hera. So today we're looking back at that time before you gave birth to your babies and also the birth itself. And the first question I'd like to ask is, when you found out that you were having twins, how did you feel?
Well, I was absolutely thrilled. Yeah, 2 in 1 go, one pregnancy, have 2 babies and have a whole family straight away. Yeah, we were into that.
How far along were you when you found out?
So the midwife suggested it in the first appointment that it might be twins at 3 months, and then we refused all the scans until 6 months. At 6 months we found out for sure that it was twins. Yeah.
And how did you feel then?
I was laughing and Welly was crying, and it was just, amazing, really.
Before you really knew you were having twins, what type of birth were you imagining?
Yeah, I mean, ideally I wanted a home birth and just as natural as possible.
And how did finding out that you were having twins change that?
I had to have a hospital birth and I had to go to Nelson, but I was hoping that it would be as natural as possible. I was really attached to a vaginal birth.
So in a way you had real expectations of the type of birth you wanted, even though you were having twins?
Yes.
At some point your midwife handed you the caesarean section pamphlet and suggested that you have a look at it. How did that affect you?
Yeah, I was absolutely devastated. That was at 37 weeks, and until that point, the leading twin had been head down, and then what had happened is that my son had taken the lead and he was breech, so that wasn't looking super good, but I thought, no way, we're going to definitely have a vaginal birth, even if he's breech, we can do it, That was my attitude, and I hated that she had handed me that pamphlet.
So what happened in that lead up to your birth? How did things change?
I didn't want to accept it. Yeah, having a session with EFT with you was really super helpful in just accepting what was happening for me at the time and grieving for what I had lost, in terms of that if I wasn't able to have obviously not able to have a home birth and not able to have a vaginal birth perhaps, and having to let go of a lot of stuff. So letting go, but also I was still fighting with myself. I wanted to turn the baby, and so I was hanging upside down and doing moksha and other things that, crazy things that were supposedly going to turn the baby, but the baby wasn't going to turn.
I remember that not only did you have some expectations about how you wanted the birth to be, but you had a lot of expectations on yourself that if only you could do something to help these babies shift, that somehow it was your responsibility to make that happen, and it felt quite like a lot of pressure.
Definitely, I was carrying a lot, because I was absolutely adamant that at least I was going to go into labour, but in fact that choice was also taken away from me, where all the obstetricians came together in a meeting and said, nah, you're going to have an elite caesarean because of the position of the babies. So all of my desires for my natural birth had just gone out the door. Yeah, for a few days just felt like I was in a deep dark hole, and I didn't know where the joy was for my birth anymore.
Hera, you said something really interesting, that you felt like everything you wanted had been taken away from you. How did you get back how did you get back what had been taken away from you? Because it sounds like you felt somewhat disempowered in your choices.
I really did. But being the person that I am, I suppose I was determined to find ways of making it the most beautiful experience possible anyway. When I found out I had to have an elect cesarean, I just thought, okay, well, I'm definitely not going to have a screen up. I'm going to have the lights dimmed. I'm going to have my friend there. She actually had to be in the viewing room, but she was playing her shaman drum, really connecting with us. And I got to choose the two midwives that were at the birth. I got a tour of the theatre before we had the birth, and I think that was quite a key point for me, to actually go and view the room where this would happen, and so that the unknown would be taken away. We had a lot of birth choices that we wanted to have respected, and we discussed that with the obstetrician. We requested our obstetrician because there was only one of them that we felt comfortable with.
So it sounds like you made a lot of choices that actually really helped you to feel like you were still in charge of your birth and in control of your birth.
Yes, and having our own music in the theatre, turning it up quite loud actually, so that the whole theatre was imbued with this beautiful energy from the music. Then the Lotus birth came into it.
What is Lotus birth?
Yeah, the baby's born and the cord remains attached to the placenta. There's no cutting of the cord. And yeah, I guess my feeling was that I didn't want the cord to be cut, at least not immediately. And then as it happened, I thought, oh well, let's just leave the placenta on until it feels right to either cut it or let it fall off, So that's a Lotus birth, so leaving the placenta attached to the baby after the birth. And most of the time until the umbilical cord falls off by itself. So in our case, we left it 3 days. So I had what was a rather unusual birth. It was a twin cesarean Lotus birth.
Did you plan that before the birth, Hera, that you didn't want the cord cut, or was that something that happened during the birth itself?
It's a little bit of both. Like, we definitely wrote that down quite strongly in our final birth plan, but also left it up to the day. In the theatre, the atmosphere was just so beautiful and calm, and the respect from everybody there was phenomenal, and it was just the timing didn't matter. We had one baby delivered, and then the other baby delivered, and then the placenta delivered. This was all within the space of about 5 minutes, and then they were all brought up. The placenta was placed in a bowl, and the two babies were brought up by the two midwives. And it was so peaceful, And so, anyway, we just left that placenta attached for 3 days.
I know for a lot of people out there, the idea of keeping your placenta sounds like a really stinky, smelly, disgusting thing to do. Like, with it, like, how do you prevent it from becoming a bit icky?
Wash it, salt it, and wrap it. And some people use herbs. And it just cures. You have to wash it every day and salt it every day in the beginning, and then it just cures like a dried meat.
So why are you glad that you chose to have a Lotus birth, Hera?
For me, that was key in keeping a natural feel for the birth. So, having the cords remaining intact and having the placenta with the babies and the cords and everything, it just kept us in a really nice, connected, protected space.
Sounds like it provided the essence of that holistic birth that you were really looking for.
Yeah, I think it did.
You were talking about the birth, and I really had this sense of such a beautiful experience for you. Can you explain, how did you feel during the birth? What was it like to give birth to babies like that?
I was in bliss from the moment I woke up that morning, because I realised that this was my baby's birthing day. In the theatre, I felt very, very blessed, really, to be in that peaceful environment and to have so much, respect for me. And it was about me, I know it was about my babies too, but it's so important that the birth is about you and that you get your choices on it. So yes, I felt that everyone was really honouring what we were wanting that day.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Hera. I think you're mentioning some really important points just about respect and being honoured and feeling like you're in the centre of the experience, no matter what happens. What would you say to a woman who's anticipating a surgical birth?
If she's anticipating it, I think that's a blessing for a start, that she's able to think about things, to talk to people, to go and have a look at the theatre, talk to a woman who had a caesarean, to know that she's cloaked in a cloak of love and that this is going to be a beautiful experience no matter what. I guess also to have a really strong support person with her.
I wonder, Hera, if this can in some way apply to situations where women are really anticipating a normal, natural birth and then things do go in a different direction. I wonder if it's possible to in some way have a little bit of anticipation that things can change direction and to bring in that aspect of surrender that you mentioned.
The idea of a caesarean for me was just appalling, and also the other aspect for me was that some part of me thought, oh, that means a woman's failed, and I wasn't going to fail, That was a weird thing for me, my sister had a caesarean and then she'd had a natural birth, but the caesarean for me kind of represented a failure, or because I felt so healthy and I thought, well, I'm going to give birth naturally, I can do this, that kind of represented, you having failed in it. I think for everyone to meditate on the possibility of a surgical birth is a really good thing, in a positive way, in a positive, empowered way.
Do you think there's anything that a woman who knows that she's going to have a surgical birth can talk with her obstetrician about before the birth?
I think anything and everything. The only thing that freaked out my obstetrician was when I said, oh, do you think you could talk my babies through the birth? And he said, well, I think it's more important that we talk you through the birth. We got Kay, the midwife, one of the midwives, she talked me through the birth. She talked me through the operation. She said, okay, they're going to be cutting through 6 layers here. They're cutting through, the layer of skin, and now they're going to be pulling your muscles apart and to the side. And, she talked it through it. She said, oh, there's going to be a fizzing noise. That's your water's breaking. This kind of stuff. As I was in the operation, really helped to be knowing what was going on at the time. Yeah.
Some women might feel like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to know that they're cutting me.
Whatever she wants, whatever she wants. If she doesn't want to know, if she wants that screen up, that's awesome. That's her birth. Yeah. So I think anything and everything you want to talk to your obstetrician about, it's important to feel comfortable with that person.
Great.
Yeah.
It's just been amazing talking with you about that whole experience, and to be honest, working with you in the time before the birth and that really intense emotional time of transition and letting go and surrendering, as you say, it was incredibly powerful for me and was part of my process in moving from natural and normal is best to moving into a place of really supporting women to have an empowered experience whatever form their birth takes. So it was really incredibly healing for me as a support person working with birthing couples. So thank you so much.